So one of the interesting things about Pathfinder too, and I think it's like slightly with my approach to it, because I haven't played a game like Dungeons and Dragons in like a couple of years, but it's such an abstract kind of gamey game that like it's kind of weird. Like I think in theory our best option here was not to kind of do what we did, but in actuality was to form up in a clump of 4 people and have our 2 front line in front of us and the 2 back line behind, and just march in like a
little Roman testudo.
Whereas in a more kind of
actually.
like in a more kind of like a game like Call of Cthulhu or something, where if you get shot you're dead, like the end, like the best thing. Yeah, it would have been more like the best thing to do would be to like try and get a good angle and then shoot at somebody from a good angle.
Also, I think this should be recorded at this point, because this is actually like good stuff.
It's a good thing we're
fucking
recording, Sean.
Oh, it is recording? Okay. Oh, I didn't notice. Okay, my bad.
Oh damn. Okay. Oh. But yeah, like I'm just so my approach, I think, to the game needs to be different. I think we should be playing it. It's kind of weird. We should be playing this like the fishery is a dungeon.
Yes.
And we should just be like, oh, they gotta go left or right.
That makes sense, but
something about Pathfinder, I wonder if it's also specifically Pathfinder, because in Pathfinder there's a lot of supporting each other that happens. So kind of being in that formation you described might have helped.
You know what we should do? Once we all TPK, we should all make videos called "Why I'm Leaving Pathfinder" because we played it wrong.
Yeah.
Ronald.
It's interesting though, because I find it really hard to justify that fiction that we would do that, right? Like I find it really hard to be like, okay, boys, let us go in one at a time with our front line at the in front of us, and us firing pistols from between your legs. Like I just find.
I agree that is like correct tactics for how Pathfinder is set up as a game. And the way you kind of need to justify it in the fiction is you have to have your characters realize their support abilities exist, that they're better when they're together. And that's kind of the only way you can do something like that. But and you can also say...
I think it's also the action economy. Like we did support one another. Like, we didn't like split up to the extent where I think it's more to do with just like the action economy being the way it is. That and you're better off kind of staying together and trying to keep the back line, this idea of the back line and a front line, and trying to keep those two things separated. Because I'm in cloth, like basically, if I was in actuality, like if this was reality and I was a gunslinger, my defense against this guy's club is the fact that I have 2 guns, and the moment he walks up those stairs, I'm going to shoot him in the chest. And he's going to fall down. He's not going to like get back up and be like, haha, I'm giggles. He's gonna fall down. Like he's been shot. And if he doesn't, I'm gonna shoot him with my other gun, right? But it's Pathfinder, it's abstracted. So he takes hit point damage and he keeps coming like it's nothing. And then he can kind of hit me with a club. And it's a game, right? And so it's trying to approach it from this more game abstract way, and thinking about not as like the scenario in terms of the role play, but thinking of it in terms of the fact that we're on a map playing Pathfinder. Like it takes me a little bit out of the immersion, a little bit out of the role play, a little bit.
Immersion.
No.
Was Guts
the rules lawyers
over?
of Alkenstar campaign should be running Candela Obscura ? With YouTube face.
Matt Mercer killed my game.
Yeah, there you go.
Personally, he showed up. It was horrible.
What do you think about that, Ron? Considering that you did create a video that was entitled, Pathfinder helps the systems helps roleplay. It does not hinder it.
Oh, I think it's another thing to explore
about this campaign, actually.
Well, I'll think about it, but I feel like
Ronald, my people hated that video. I had a couple people in my Discord server. They hated that video. They're like, "What's your opinion on this?" I'm like, "I don't know, bro. Like, Ronald's my friend. Like, I don't know. Like,
yeah, I saw some.
No, but all their point was the game has rules, therefore it has less roleplay.
Yeah,
and that was like
the comments I saw didn't respond to the actual video. They're saying, "No, Pathfinder has too many rules. You're wrong." That was what I said.
But the idea of it makes you have to approach all the comments in a tactical way is, I think, a legitimate criticism, and it's Pathfinder tactical based on Pathfinder's system.
It's not like actual tactics of like, it's a great way to kill people in a room, standing at the windows and shooting inside. It's like the best way to approach this is that they are abstracted people, we are abstracted people. we are engaging in this battle of who has the best clump of stats and abilities versus their clump of stats and abilities. This is actually
and then the roleplay comes in.
I'm just not sure how much
ability.
of this discussion is distorted by the fact that we have a bottom 10% experience with the dice rolls right now. Because
that is also true. We've also had
average, there'd be 3 conscious party members and 1 conscious enemy.
Here is a question, Ron. Did we get any bonuses for being above them, shooting at them from a window? And like was that actually taken into account by the system? Like the fact that we were sort of ambushing them, and like it's like Monday at 3 p.m. and suddenly there's shots being fired at them through a window.
I should have, and I forgot to give him the flat-footed condition when you shot at him.
You silly bitch.
But I don't know if that would have affected it.
Yeah.
And
it missed by 3.
Oh, okay. He did have to waste time walking to you as a melee.
Yeah.
They were not clumped up. They were scattered. That gave you a momentary advantage. That isolated the first guy you knocked out.
Just there was a complication in the children. I told you. Just open fire. Don't get
fire.
Man.
So that's
So
anyway,
interesting.
but it's not completely invalid what you're saying too. Because
I know that your channel, obviously, you've got a lot of Pathfinder fans. I'm not being pejorative about Pathfinder. I'm finding the system interesting. I'm trying to get to know it a little bit.
Yeah. No, and I think you're bringing up great points. As somebody that plays the system a lot and loves the system, your points are good and they need to be talked about. Like,
I think it's
I think what you're talking about more is when you're shot, you're down. How would that have affected things? And that might. Anyway, I don't know. I just have to think about it more. I'm not. But we do have the fact that that your gun doesn't. Okay, there's the fact too that in this game your gun does 1d4 damage. That is not. That is a abstraction gamification, and normally a gun will kill somebody. So I think that is something that's also creating a dissonance.
Yeah, definitely. The guns feel really weird. I actually feel like, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but the gunslinger class, while relatively simple in terms of what you want to do, it feels like there is a depth to it that I'm sort of missing, or there is some way to play it.
Yeah, I think
there is a play style that comes bundled with it.
I think, unless there's more, Sean, the one thing is you want to debuff everybody if you can, or get some advantage before you fire every shot, if possible.
Yes. And you usually, as a gunslinger, it's usually best to only fire 1 shot per turn, because multi-attack penalty has every shot after the first be at -5 in that turn. So you then have 2 actions to play with that you then try to get as many penalties as you can. Demoralize and feint, get a +3 effectively. And now suddenly you're critting on a 15 instead of an 18.
Right, okay.
And then your crit damage is basically like triple your normal, and then you're one-shotting them. That's how Gunslinger's like meant to like flow. So it's fine to end your turn with an unloaded gun because you have a thing that debuffs them as you're reloading. So doing the debuffs first, and then thinking about that next turn with how you're going to get that reload fit in. That's what a lot of Gunslinger's death is, and that's...
And also, spending an action to walk away from an enemy, if you're not on the ground under a dog, costs them an action, because everything costs an action.
So if you like
cost them an action to walk up to you, or 2 actions if you have a high speed,
and then start kiting them, you really start to limit their counterplay options, because they might have big activities where you just need your 1 shot. So you can then force by walking back action for action trades. So there's a lot to think about in that regard too, but that's really what Gunslinger's about. It's about trying to manipulate the action economy by doing movement and trying to debuff with all of your abilities before you go in for the shot and try to have that 1-shot kill because you're crit build.
Or the wrestler is grappling somebody.
Or the wrestler is grappling them, which is also a debuff. Or the rogues have demoralized because the rogues also have these debuffs.
I think as well, like something that's interesting about Pathfinder is it seems like this is just like it seems like it wants to reward you for playing into the particular type of fantasy that your character's evoking. It's not going to reward you necessarily. Like there are certain ways that it wants you to play with the Raconteur's Reload, with the debuffs that you can give. It rewards you for engaging with those abilities in a specific way, whereas maybe engaging with them in a slightly different way will result in maybe more character but less optimal results. And I think that's sort of also some of the dissonance that I'm currently experiencing, is that it's a matter of like, how do I engage with these mechanics in a way that rewards me as a player? What does that mean for the character? And I feel like I still haven't, I personally haven't threaded that needle yet with Mac either, of like, how do I get that fantasy to mesh with how I want the character to work? Like, just because I think that probably comes down to, at least in my case, not knowing the mechanics well enough yet, not knowing how they all work yet. And as soon as I get a better grasp on all of those mechanics, I can start playing, I think, more with the fantasy of the character and what those abilities do. As like a general sort of take.
I'm gonna say that you like to talk as your character, interact with people. You want to have a good diplomacy, deception, and intimidation, which all have defined uses in combat. And that's all. That's my only thought for now. You have other
and you can also
that kind of say on the tin how you use it. Fire ray.
You can also see that you can marry that fiction and character, because like I kind of did it off guts, because I had to come up with some ridiculous backstory to justify why this guy has every skill, basically. So in the process of justifying that, I came up with a very interesting character, and I think it feels somewhat coherent in how incoherent it is.
Yeah, I am like my statement is not at all like a judgment of the system, but more of a statement of like, here's something that I feel like I don't have yet. I feel like I don't have a grasp of yet. Not as much of a like how to do this. It's like, oh, I'm still kind of feeling it out. How do I fit into this? This isn't at all a
definitely.
It's like an actual learning curve, like how to optimally play the game. You actually have to do legwork. You can't just be like.
It feels like weirdly similar to 5th edition, but then there's also like subtle differences that I didn't pick up on until literally this conversation of like, movement's actually valuable in the system because it costs movement to get to you as an action. That is something that doesn't matter even in the slightest.
Even a little bit in 5e. In 5e, moving away is just you eat an attack of opportunity and you're dumb.
So that is something one thing, and this actually affected a player in my Abomination Vaults. The rogues came in from different directions, far apart from each other, and rogues benefit from having an ally to flank with.
Really close to flank with. That's also why I've been in favor of just like barging in, because rogue specifically is a special case where they are less functional alone.
So that's the argument for going in a formation. At least those two want to be. Maybe
these two want to be the grapple bro and the stabby bro want to work together, because the grapple can give flat foot for the other rogue as well, and then we can just like instantly annihilate anything that gets.
Guys are like the perfect goons, you know.
Perfect goon squad.
One of you should be like really thin and have a flick knife, and the other one's like a big burly guy, you know. Classic gooners, dude.
As long as I don't die.
Yeah.